Great. I'll get going then. Welcome to Boat Buyers University and Buying a Boat, the Whole Story. I just typed into chat there. Let me know what kind of boats you're interested in and where you're planning on boating. And I can tailor some of the things in the seminar maybe for people that are more involved in one type or another. There they all come in. Cutwater Inside Passage. We love the Inside Passage. That's my company's Inside Passage Yacht Sales. And the 3788, that's a fabulous boat. What and a classic. Lots of Ranger tugs out there, no question about it. They really get a lot accomplished for a great value. No, really nifty. I am speaking to you guys from the San Juan Islands. I live on Lopez Island. Our office is in Anacortes, but I'm talking to you from our remote location hidden on Lopez Island right now. Sailboats, I'm not as much of a sailboat guy, but all these things apply very much so to the sailboat thing. So I think it'll go well for you as well, but I might not be able to give you as much advice in regards to some things in regards to sailors. Semi-displacement is a great style of boat. You gotta love that. We'll talk a little bit about styles of boat here too. Well, I'll get started. So when I got into the business of selling boats, I realized that holy smokes, lots and lots of people, and I started to learn the process of selling a boat. I learned that lots and lots of folks don't actually understand the process behind it. And especially when they're coming to go buy a boat, people are a little nervous. They're holding their cards a little close because they don't really get the process. They've bought cars, they've bought airplanes, they've bought homes, and there's processes for all those, and everyone's more familiar with those, but boats are a little bit different in some ways. And so I started doing this seminar in an effort to kind of clarify all those things. Oh, your guys are probably seeing my chat window on there too. I'm trying to think where I can put that to make it not as obnoxious. Well, I'll just hide it and open it up once in a while. My company is Inside Passage Yacht Sales. My name's Brian Krantz, and I started selling boats in 2004. Wish I would have started a lot earlier. It is an incredibly fun and great time. Our company operates a little differently than a lot of the other companies. We are not so much a sales-based company as we are a relationship company. I train all the salespeople in our company that the important thing is the relationship. Even if you create the relationship with the people, then they go to buy a different brand boat, that's a success for us. We want to help people get the right boat. Amazingly enough, by focusing there, which I feel is sort of a long-range plan, we have had the opportunity to develop great relationships and have done phenomenally well in business. Even in hard times, different than now, where it is a really, really big business time in boats. Oh, good. So you don't see the chat screen. That's perfect. I can keep that up and look at it. I appreciate that comment. This is John and Carolyn Branigan here. They're a couple that I met years ago, and we've sold a number of boats for them and to them. And they were coming into buying a big purchase. It's a 56-foot coastal craft. And it was an incredible boat, 32-knot cruise, all aluminum, incredibly finished. And as they were getting the boat, we got to know each other much, much, much better. And in the process, part of the deal was that I've done quite a bit of tuna fishing over the years. They said, Brian, you have to take us tuna fishing if we're going to buy this boat. That was part of the close. And we did. We had a fabulous time tuna fishing off of Cape Flattery in their boat. And they were really excited about it. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. So, but that's the big part of what I want to tell you right here is about relationships. And the big part of doing this seminar for me is to help people have the opportunity to create relationships with their sales folks. Shopping is the first step. Going to a boat show, of course, we've got all these strange virtual boat shows now. There's lots of dealers and lots of places that you can go and see boats. At our office in Anacortes, we have a long string of boats, lots of boats you can take a look at. But shopping is really important. And I'm sure lots of you have already been shopping. A tip I give to people who are starting to shop for boats, and it can help you now too, is that don't pay attention to the boat at first. Pay attention to the people selling the boat. This is particularly important at a boat show, in-person live boat show. I'm sure we'll get back to having those again soon. But what happens at those boat shows is they find anybody that can breathe or stand on the back of the boat to be a salesman at the boat. And that person is working for a couple of weeks or a month through that process. And they're more of a greeter than they are a boat salesperson. And what you want to find is an advocate, someone who understands the type of boating you want to do, someone who understands the goals you want to do, someone that understands, well, I liken it to the person who sells you the boat is going to make some money. So find that person that you want to give the money to, someone you like so much, you feel so good about, you say, hey, that this is a person I want to help and be involved in, because they're going to provide me, him, her, they'll provide me the information I need to have a successful experience, and successful achievement of getting the goals that you want done. So first, shop for an advocate. Shop for an advocate when you're looking for a boat. Go to that advocate, run different boats by them, see what they say, and I think you'll be very impressed how much better a process you might have. The next thing, and the advocate should be able to help you with this, is understanding that the different, we just looked at, and everyone spoke of all 4 of these types of boats just now in the chat. And we have clients that are interested in all of them. I'm actually very impressed, and I know right away that I kind of have an academically high level of participant here, because you understand the first thing you need to look at is not the top, but the bottom. To meet your goals. When someone tells me they want a semi-displacement boat, I understand the speeds they're trying to travel. I understand all kinds of things about the bottom of the boat. When someone says a monohull sailboat, instantly I get that they understand that they're only going to be running, 5, 6, 8 knots. Likewise, trawlers, slower speeds. It's very important to understand these different types. The full displacement boats, which are very similar to a sailboat as well, is a boat that's going to travel at what we call a hull speed, right? It's a speed that, it's just to summarize it without getting too technical, slower, less than 10 knots typically for a hull speed. There's a few boats out there that have remarkably high hull speeds. Most of the hull speeds in a full displacement boat are relatively slow. The boats also have a little bit more of a tippy feel, because they're not stabilized by the water going underneath them. A semi-displacement hull, I'm a little bit biased. I often consider a semi-displacement hull to be somewhat of a hull that is a displacement hull that's got really big motors that could actually get that boat up on a plane. But as soon as you do get that boat running at a higher speed, you get lift coming up from underneath the hull, and that stabilizes it a little side to side. Semi-displacement boats, if they're not designed properly, run into problems with running high in the bow. So that's a really important feature to see. You don't want to be running with your nose way up in the air. When you get into a deeper V planing hull, that's a boat that mostly people are considered to be like an offshore boat, something you're going to be running out in big waves at high speeds, because it'll cut through. They again also get kind of tippy unless you're traveling at a higher speed, then they'll stabilize. A modified V is a very popular boat because it incorporates both the sharper entry on the bow and cutting through waves, higher speeds, and great stability with a flatter back end. Don't hesitate if you've got any questions about any of those sizes of boats. I'm happy to comment on them. But you'll see a full displacement boat's going to be a little slower, considerably faster, maybe twice that speed, say 8 knots, 16, maybe 25 knots at the fastest. Deep V planing boats are going to be running 30, 40, 50 knots, as well as modified V, but not in disrupted water. So the next thing is that we always hear and we talk to people about is their budget. What is your budget? And I love to talk about this. I'm a mechanical engineer from college, which went a little fast there. And so I anguished over this question. How do I communicate to people the true meaning of their budget in boating? And I made this formula. I'm going to go over it with you a little bit here. AC is acquisition cost, the price you pay for the boat. LC is loan costs. If you finance, you might not finance. M for maintenance. The way you consider M, obviously there's annual maintenance for any boat, but an older boat is going to have more maintenance than a newer boat, right? So the maintenance number is going to go up or down. I for insurance. A lot of people don't understand until they've already purchased a boat. When they go to get insurance, insurance companies won't insure some boats. All wooden boats, older boats, lots of boats are uninsurable, or the insurance is immensely expensive if you try to get it. So it's important to think about that, how that plays out with each boat you're looking at. Moorage and storage. I love moorage and storage. I think it's a fascinating component in this formula because all the other ones actually have quite a bit of variable. I forgot to mention loans. If you're going for a loan, loan costs for an older boat are considerably higher than they are for a newer boat. Kind of tracks right along with insurance. But moorage and storage is only about the length of the boat. Doesn't matter if it's a good boat, a bad boat, a new boat, a used boat. It's the same to moor it and store it based on its length. So every time you get a longer boat, that goes up, but it doesn't matter if it's new or used. And then you add those all together, then you subtract the retail sales price of your boat. When you go to, retail resale price, when you resell that boat, what are you going to get for it 2 years, 6 years, 5 years from now? Almost everyone says this is the last boat of my life, but it's not always the case, and I'm happy for that. It makes our sales business really good, but it's good to have an understanding of what return on that investment should you expect. And some boats do better than others, and it's an important number to find if you actually really want to know the budget. Lots of my customers, they talk about a budget, but they kind of don't want to know. Anyways, this formula will then give you the COO, or cost of ownership, what it costs you to own that boat. And I think if you play with this formula a little bit and plug in some of the numbers that you're looking into, I think you will see that it is less expensive to buy newer boats. Less expensive to buy newer boats. And in the end, less expensive to buy brands that are considered high quality and have high brand recognition than a lot of other boats. And everyone always focuses on the AC, the acquisition cost. Is the boat $100,000 or $50,000 or $500,000 or $1 million? That's how much money I have. But really, to get to the actual cost of ownership, you need to play out all these things, and an advocate can really help you to do that. It's a great thing. Let me know if you've got any questions about the formula. It's something I kind of geek out on and really enjoy, and a lot of people have gotten a lot out of it. Now, the next thing to do is compare the boats that you're looking at out on the market. You want to understand, is it an apple? Is it an orange? How do these compare? What benefits does one give me? What benefits does another? Your advocate is going to be very, very good at helping you with that. But even more important, in the process of comparing, your advocate should be able to, now not all brokers offer this, but they have access to the multiple listings for boats, of sold boats. So they can look at the boat that you're looking at, find comparables, and give you an idea of how much those boats should cost, what the market value is of it. And you can compare that to the boats you're looking at. Say, hey, is this overpriced or underpriced, or is it a good deal or not a good deal? There's a whole host of data that they can compile for you. Now, that data can be compiled, but it also can be manipulated before it's sent to you. So again, another reason to really trust that person that you are working with, to be confident that they are giving you great information and great advice, because they can only give you certain comps if they want, or they can do it. I try to give all the comps and then talk about how some of them might be different. The other thing that I find to be one of the most important things that's often overlooked is this analysis of the seller if you're trying to buy their boat. Boats are different a lot of times than other items, and people are eminently personally involved. And I have found that if by chance you offend a seller in the process of negotiating for that boat, you will almost always pay more for it. I don't mean that you shouldn't. I've found that the opportunity to offend a seller often is more likely if your price that you're offering for the boat is more than a 10% discount from the asking price. So if that, whole price offer here, just 10% off, not as likely to offend a seller. Sometimes even that will. But if that doesn't mean not to make a low price. They might be, from market analysis, you might find that boat is way overpriced. It's priced much, much more than the market, and it doesn't make any sense. And the seller just doesn't understand. Well, the first thing a lot of people will do is just start saying to the seller, oh, your boat doesn't have this, and your boat doesn't have that, and I don't like the way it works here, and I don't. And my experience has been that never bodes well, and it usually upsets the seller and creates uncomfortable environment between both parties. So I don't mind bringing a low offer, but my whole point is, if you're going to send a low offer, send it with flowers. Make it kind. Tell them, oh my gosh, we love your boat. We can see our family living, the next 5 years of incredible living on it. We'll take great care of her. Don't make things up. Say the things that are true, but tell all the positive things that you want and you like about this boat. But this is what we're able to offer you for it, and let that go through. Try to be as nice as possible if you have to make a low offer. It really is nice if you can if your advocate is representing both parties, they'll know the seller. If you have a selling broker involved and you're with your listing broker involved and you're with the selling broker, try to get the listing broker to describe to you a little bit about this person, what they liked about the boat, how, and these kind of things can really help weave a deal together. I talked about this just a little bit. What makes a good offer? That 10% rule. When I first started in selling boats, I would ask people, people come to me all the time. It's one of the first questions. Well, what should I offer? What should I offer? And I didn't know. And over the years, I made this 10% rule and found over and over and over again, it works. It's the truth. If you're offering at a discount in excess of 10%, you run the risk of offending somebody. If you're doing that, make sure you send it with flowers. So be nice as you can to the folks that you're giving a low offer to. It can often work out. That's a little bit about the offer. The next thing is your sea trial. That's typically the lowest investment. Often the seller will pay for the sea trial. If the boat's in the water, that you'll go out for a ride and there won't be any cost involved. Sometimes there's launching involved and things like that, and there might be some minimal cost. But I encourage people to do the sea trial independently of the mechanical other inspections that we'll talk about, because you're not distracted by all the other things. A lot of times everyone's in such a hurry that they try to do everything all at once. And what happens, they pay $2,000 for mechanical inspection, $2,500 for a marine survey, and then they get out on the boat and they're like, I don't really like this. And it's really hard after you've invested all that money to be unbiased about it. So sea trial is a really, really good way to check out your boat first, take a breath, then start handling, spending some money, investing on those inspections. Marine surveys, that pros and cons and who to use. It's rule number one in the brokerage world is that the brokers are not allowed or should not recommend marine surveyors to you. That being said, they almost always do. You are looking for someone that can help you in choosing those. I have stories, I've heard brokers say, clients will ask them, hey, which marine surveyor should I use? And they say, oh, it depends on if you're buying the boat or selling the boat. If you get what that means, is that one person's more strict and one person's very lax in doing their surveys. Well, I don't believe in that. I believe in getting someone who does an excellent job so that all the cards are turned over in front of everybody so we can make a positive sale and have a good transaction, rather than sneaking something by somebody. That never helps and doesn't work good in the long run ever. So knowing a good marine surveyor is a very important thing. And there's more than one out there, but they are usually the hardest to get. So often you have to be more patient to get a really good marine surveyor. So do some real research. You can almost go down the list and call them up. The ones that are booked out the farthest, probably a good sign that they're some of the best surveyors. Even call other brokerage offices and say, hey, who do you guys use for surveys? And ask around. That's an important part. The marine survey is almost always mandated if there's a loan, and sometimes even for insurance, especially if it's an older boat. The next thing that's really important, it's a big part of it, is the mechanical survey. And interestingly, the marine survey is often thought of as the most important. But I will tell you that the mechanical survey is by far the most important. And getting the very, very best mechanic. If you have Volvo engines in the boat you're buying, you want a Volvo mechanic. If they're Cummins, you want a Cummins mechanic. If it's a Yamaha, you want a Yamaha mechanic. If it's a Perkins, you want a guy that specializes in Perkins to do that inspection. The mechanical surveys are a little different than the marine survey. The marine surveyor have a flat price usually for a boat. They just go through and they switch all the switches and do things. Mechanical survey is going to charge you by the hour, and they're going to do as much of the boat as you like. And I encourage you to be generous with the mechanical surveyor and get them to look at as much as possible. They have a much better understanding of, is that inverter how hard is it going to be to replace that inverter, and how expensive will it be? And as opposed to saying it just doesn't work. And definitely get them involved in the engines. But this is often a place where people will go, oh, only just do the engine. Don't worry about this or that or this or that. I want to encourage you, find a great mechanical person to do your survey and give them a bigger window, a bigger budget to give you information, because it will be really well used and important for you to know. A lot of folks are unfamiliar with marine title companies. We have totally separate title companies. They just do maritime things. They also are able to do trailers, boat trailers, they have a VIN number. And they're not all title companies are the same. I tell a story. I had a title agent that I had done a deal with when I was kind of new and getting started. And one day he calls me up, he goes, oh, we missed this one document. And I'm sending it over, and we're back signing it, and we'll notarize it in past. And I'm like, what? I mean, you can't do that. That's terrible. There's some people that don't mind their P's and Q's the most. You want a title agent. It's a third-party company, not the seller, not the buyer, not the brokers. Maybe it's a fourth-party company in that case, that really pays attention to the funds. Make sure that you have a clear title. Lots of brokerages offices do their own in-house title work, like a car dealership or something like that. And they make some money doing it. I really want to encourage you to use a highly qualified title company. The title company that I use, I'm very proud of, and we stick to them like all the time. And I have an experience once. We were at a brokerage seminar, like a big conference, annual conference, and the person in charge of collecting sales tax for Washington State was speaking to us, and speaking specifically in regards to the yacht brokerage. And I couldn't believe it, because he's someone that we want to be really nice to, because we don't want him to be punitive to the yacht brokers, right? I want to be nice. But all these brokers kept, why do you do this? Raising their hands. Why do you do that? Why do you do that? Just like really pinning him down. And he was getting a little flustered because he didn't know all the answers very well. And all of a sudden he said, just a second, is so-and-so here? And he actually was speaking and asking for my title agent. And she happens to be a woman, and she was very shy. So she was kind of hiding off in the back. And finally, she sort of raised her hand begrudgingly to say, yes, I'm here. And he goes, well, could you answer his question on how you do that? The head honcho in the tax division was going to a private party title agent to explain how the tax codes work. That's the person I do my title work with, is the one that knows it even better than the government does. It's a great, great thing. Oh, we got a question in there from Chris. How does this work when buying a new boat from the manufacturer? It's not common to do a mechanical inspection almost impossible. You never do a mechanical inspection from a new boat from a manufacturer because there's going to be an X amount of warranty and stuff for all the engines and mechanical parts. But it's not uncommon, although not frequent. I have a boat that we're delivering in San Francisco. It's coming from Finland. We're shipping it to San Francisco. And before the deal closes, the owner would like to have a marine surveyor go through and just check the boat out to make sure the boat, I guess, made it from Finland all right. So every once in a while, you'll see someone do a marine survey on a relatively new boat. But the nice thing about new boats is that they do have warranty from the factories. Then orientation. I want to encourage you, talk to your advocate before you're far down this line and find out what sort of orientation do they get? What sort of orientation will they do? Oh, in regards to the new boats with title companies, I always use a title company, even with my new boats. Not every title company does, but many of them handle the funds so that they make sure that the title is transferred properly into your name, that it's clear from any liens, because even it belongs to the dealer before, and it could be lien. There could be they have flooring plans sometimes, right, on the boats. They make sure that there's nothing attached to that boat, that brand new boat, before they release your funds to the seller. So I still enjoy using the title company for the new boats. They get things registered properly, and everything happens a lot faster. They do a good job if you want a Coast Guard documentation for it. It's a very worthwhile thing and not that expensive. But you want to find out if your advocate is prepared to show you the boat, to teach you the boat, maybe spend a day with you on the boat. With our clients, we make sure and let them know, hey, when the boat is sold, we want to spend time with you, getting you going, getting you on the water, getting you taken off. Sometimes they say no, and we can't push them on it, but we want to make sure we don't just hand them the keys and push them off the dock. I mean, that is the worst start to learning a new vessel. And then my customers, we spend a day or so with them and let them know, hey, you got any other questions? Call us, get together with us. We'll come back and we'll spend another day with you afterwards. Periodically, I've worked for companies that do multiple day orientations with the client. And what I've found with those multiple day ones is that the customer's brain is completely full after 3/4 of a day. Maybe half a day of training and a half a day of practicing is much more effective. And then come back later, give them the basics to get started, and then come back for more about it later. But ask about an orientation. You don't want to be that person that just gets a set of keys and kicked out the door. That's it, all I have for technical things. And that's a picture of our office in Anacortes inside Passage Yacht Sales. You can see some of the brands that we carry. We are always happy to help in any way that we can. And you've just got our website address and everything there. Can I take some time to answer questions for anybody?
This is Katie from the Northwest Chat Brokers. If you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand. I have the ability to allow you to talk, or you can enter into the chat feature. I've got a couple of hands up here, Brian, so I'm going to turn on their microphones.
Excellent. I'd love to hear people.
Mike, you are on the phone or on the line. Mike Alert. If you could go off mute.
I don't really have a question. I have a survey scheduled for tomorrow. I took some notes on what you suggested. We're doing a marine survey and a mechanical survey. Have not done a sea trial. I asked about that and was told that wasn't usual. It's going to all happen. This mechanical, not the mechanical, I'm sorry, the marine survey and a sea trial are going to happen tomorrow.
Yes, and they are correct. That is quite typical, but it is something that I have worked to change, because I want to encourage you while you're out there. It's when the surveyor's there and the mechanic's there and you're trying to see if you like driving the boat, there's so many questions and there's so much going on. It's really hard just to get a feel for the boat. So when you take advantage of that time and do your very best to ignore those guys for a while, just some amount of time, just say, hey, I'm not talking to the surveyor. I'm not talking to the mechanic. I'm just seeing if I like this boat. And be careful and listen to your gut instinct on the boat. And if you don't like it, you just might have to pay those guys off and get on to the other boat. But learn from that experience what you might like, if you go into something else. But it's just a nice thing if everyone can take the time to do it, to get that sea trial done in a much more relaxed environment.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Congratulations. I'm excited for you.
I've not had the boat out on the water. I've crawled around it thoroughly, several of these, and been watching them for several years, waiting for the time to be.
That's great.
Okay.
I see a question from Manny about buying a boat and putting it into charter. Charter companies have a little, some are much better than others. What I would really encourage you to do when you're looking for that charter company to give you that advice, find the oldest ones. Find a charter company that's been around for 50 years or 40 years. Someone has really been doing it a long time, because it does have a habit for people to kind of jump into it earlier. It works for a lot of folks, but a lot of folks don't like to share, don't want anyone else on their boat. But it could be a very economical and great way to do it. And then Anthony, I see also considerations for buying a sailboat to live aboard. I think that is an incredible thing to do. I love it. I think it's really a great way to enjoy your boat. The first thing you need to be concerned about, we had that equation up there before. We said moorage and storage. The restrictions for liveaboards in marinas are relatively high. So you need to know that you have a place that you can meet that goal in. And your advocate should be able to help you in sussing out marinas, or maybe buying a moorage. But even sometimes when you buy the slip, they don't allow full-time liveaboards. So just make sure you've checked into that in regards to living aboard. I don't know of tax advantages with boat loans. There are some tax advantages to use your boat as a second home. That can be a positive thing to look into. And definitely we have great benefits, at least in Washington State, for trade-ins is really good. I see the question about US Coast Guard documentation and Washington State registration. I've always been befuddled by that. And because of my engineering background as a mechanical engineer in college, I dig into these questions. I'm like, why is everyone doing this? What's the benefit of US Coast Guard documentation? First thing to know is that Washington State registration is mandated. No, even if you have Coast Guard documentation. In California, registration with the state is optional if you've got Coast Guard documentation. But Coast Guard documentation is an option in Washington. State registration is mandated. You do get an added benefit, and some people document their boat with the Coast Guard for this one reason. You always have to put your registration sticker for Washington State on the boat that has the date, the little square bright color. But if it's Coast Guard documented, you don't have to put the WN numbers with the letters and numbers following. So they're trying to make the look of the boat cleaner. So they document so they can keep that sticker off of there legally. But I ask because you'll find a lot of banks and a lot of insurance companies mandate US Coast Guard documentation. And I was digging in and I found someone that I thought was really a sage in the insurance industry. And I started asking him, what the heck? Why are they doing this? Well, little did I know, it's not least fault. It's a little bit more when we're in a border area, like we're near to Canada. But when the Coast Guard documents your vessel, it is considered an asset to the country. You've become, unbeknownst to you, a member of the US fleet. And the insurance companies and banks have a understanding that if your boat was stolen and taken across the border, it's not just a person's boat, it is a boat that is attached to the United States government, and that they will be more prominent in getting that boat back. And that's one of the big reasons I understand that insurance companies and banks mandate US Coast Guard documentation. I don't ever do it just because it costs more and is more paperwork, and I try to avoid that whenever possible. Most of my customers do, though. It's very, very common. Some people don't feel like it's a boat unless it's got a US Coast Guard documentation. I try, thank you, Chris, for asking the title company name. I try not to promote them overly too much, but Pacific Maritime Title in Seattle. Our business is in Anacortes. Every deal we process is through them, the Pacific Maritime Title at the North Lake Union. The operators there are just phenomenal. They know things incredibly well. They do a great job and are fabulous to work with. I am happy to recommend them. Let's see.
Brian, we have somebody coming on the phone. I'm going to allow Kiel Liso, if you want to ask your questions. I saw you had your hand up and you're on mute right now. So if you want to go off mute.
Okay, yeah, my question was about the title company, and he just answered that. But I was a broker for a number of years for Untitled Yacht Sales, and likewise felt the same way. They were bulletproof, if you will. I was always assured and comfortable with my customers that they would nothing would be failed. Any problems with the boat, they would find it. The paperwork be done properly, even when we had a lot of Canadian customers. So
yeah.
Yeah, having the right title company is a big deal.
Yeah, we do, lots and lots of deals for millions of dollars, and sometimes each deal $1.5 million. Man, that's a lot of money. You got to be with someone you trust. And we've had title agents in Washington State that, I'm not joking, they work for a title company. They all of a sudden shift to another place, put up a shingle, and start handling someone's funds, and they're just a person. And it freaks me out when I think of that kind of assets being handled that way. So it's important to find a good title company for that. That's great. Someone else is like Pacific Maritime too. And buying a boat in Canada. So there's a lot of interesting things about buying boats from Canada and selling boats to Canada. And one of my jobs was I was the sales manager for a Canadian company, Coastal Craft. In the picture, you're looking at the boat just to the left of the office is a 40-foot Coastal Craft. And I have a lot of experience with those and still do a lot of business with them used. In fact, that exact boat will be sea trialing tomorrow. But the old border that was open, where it used to be, it's really not difficult, but it's important, I feel, to get a customs broker to handle your entry or exit. And they're again quite reasonable. The things that, if you go and you ask any customs folks, they say you can do it yourself. But oh my gosh, the scrutiny you come under if you have not been pre-arranged through a customs broker for taking a boat one way or the other is overwhelming. But I've probably done that more than most, because most of the boats I sold while I was at Coastal Craft were going to US clients, and we brought them all right across the border. And a customs broker, they'll want a bunch of different things. I have specific customs brokers I like to use more than others. And then we get them right across the border. Now with the border closed, though, it's been quite interesting. We have been selling a lot of Canadian boats, boats to Canada, to Canadians that are down here. And we've had a lot of sales where the buyer did not ever personally come and see the boats up to $600,000, $700,000. And we do virtual tours, virtual sea trials, virtual mechanical inspections, virtual marine surveys. I just finished virtual sea trial and mechanical inspection at Lake Union on a 58-foot navigator for some clients up in Canada. Before the meeting today, or our conference today, I was speaking with him over the phone and going through the mechanical inspection stuff, and now we're getting prepared for the marine survey that's coming up next week. But he won't, the first time he'll see the boat is when he gets here. And understand that puts immense stress on me because I am all about the relationship. I want to make sure my relationship with him is a forever relationship, not just get this boat sold and out the door. So we're being very, very careful every step of the way to make sure they have the best information possible. Any other questions from anyone? I sure appreciate everyone come to see it.
Yeah, we have one question on the Q&A from Will Odell. Any difference between selecting a broker for buying a used versus a new boat?
I don't think that used and new designation is as big a deal, but really there's two things to be concerned about, and one's more important than the other. I'll tell you the not as important thing. The not as important thing is, does that person have a lot of experience with the type of vessel you think you're going to get into? That's not as important because you might not, you might not know what type of vessel you really want to get into, and you might need their help in helping you find that. So it's nice to have them have a lot of experience with that type of vessel. If someone wants to buy a coastal craft, I've got lots of experience with coastal crafts. I'm a good person for that. But that's secondary to, do you connect and communicate well with that person? Because if you find the relationship where you connect and communicate well and trust that advocate that you're asking help you, that person can go out and find all that data that they might not know. So the most important thing, I think, is the relationship, and then secondary experience with the particular types of boats you're interested in.
Another question in Q&A we have got, can you enter Canada to purchase a boat right now?
So there's, it's an interesting thing. I've had people driving through Canada to Alaska all through COVID, and there's initially it looks like it's impossible, but actually there's quite a few deferments that allow it to happen. But they usually need to be transiting through, not just visiting, right? They're on their way up to Alaska. So there's ways of getting into the border. The biggest trick, I've mostly been talking with Canadians, and I know that for Canadians, if they come down here, it's easy to get into the United States. They can go and look at a boat, but when they go back to Canada, they're mandated to quarantine, I think, for 2 weeks. So that keeps the Canadians from wanting to come down to look at the boat because they don't want that stipulation of having to quarantine. I apologize, I haven't had as many US folks going up into Canada to purchase, although I think they do it virtually often. I'm not sure if Canada even lets US people in. I want to say I don't think they do, unless they're there for commercial. Now, when I didn't mention this earlier, when the boat is actually delivered to the new owner, a commercial captain is hired to bring the boat into Canada. That's not a problem. He can come right back home that day. It's a essential service. So there is no COVID stipulation when a commercial captain's hired to bring a boat either way. I hope that helps.
Okay, so no more questions in the Q&A as of now.
Great. I really appreciate everyone coming. Thank you for hanging in there and listening, and good luck getting your boat. It's a worthwhile thing, and incredible things can happen with them, and I wish everyone the best in their process. Thank you, Anthony.
Just a quick note, we are going to be having another Boats Afloat seminar right after this. our lovely speaker, Brian, is actually going to be hosting our next seminar in about 10 minutes here. So if you haven't registered for that one, you can find the registration link on our Facebook, LinkedIn, or our Instagram pages. There are still registration spots left. So go ahead and register if you have the time to log in and listen in the background. We will be uploading all of our seminars onto the Boats Afloat YouTube channel once we have everything downloaded and then uploaded to that. So if you did miss anything, we will have that uploaded for you in about a week, I would say. Other than that, I think we are all set. I think we've got, the topic of the next session. Brian, do you want to answer that since it's all
politically incorrect safety? I was a towing and salvage captain for many years, and there's all kinds of safety things that I think are very, very important that have nothing to do with the Coast Guard courses, have nothing to do with the regulations. Those all have lawyer components involved. There's real practical things that, and I'll be honest with you, they're somewhat controversial a lot of times, and I've had people get a little flustered in the seminar because they really want me to reiterate the sort of government mandates, which of course are keep you safe, but these are important things that I think are a bigger deal. So I go over those quite a bit, and most of it's drawn from my towing and salvage experiences.
Awesome. Well, if that is it, I think we will head on out and start our next webinar, Brian, and we can get ready to go on that.
Great. Thanks again. I'll see you in a little bit, Katie.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Yeah.